Hello and welcome to the Presbyterian Church of Victoria Privacy Training online presentation. My name is Fiona and I'll be taking you through the training material. Firstly, thank you for your willingness to join our church in this endeavour to ensure that we are living out a Christian witness in the area of privacy within our denomination. In matters such as our PCV privacy policy, the Church seeks to live out our faith inspired by the words of the Lord Jesus Christ in Matthew 7:12, saying, "So in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you, for this sums up the law and the prophets." By respecting the privacy of others and adhering to our own privacy policy in how we fellowship together, we can demonstrate this Christ-like care to one another and to our wider community. In our 21st century world, where many people happily share their private moments and thoughts via social media, the presence of privacy policy and legislation can seem quite a contrast to this. One of the things about social media, however, is that in the main, people who are sharing their information with others are doing so of their own volition and via their own consent, either through the privacy settings they choose on their social media accounts or via their participation in social media in the first place. It is this element of consent that is indeed key when it comes to thinking through the implementation of our own privacy policy in the Church. Following the updating of the Privacy Act by Federal Government in 2012, the General Assembly of Victoria voluntarily updated the PCV privacy policy and privacy policy guidelines. A privacy program was also commenced to assist the denomination in putting these into practice. This training presentation is a part of the PCV privacy program. For more detail on privacy in the Church, please visit the privacy page at the Safe Church website. This training presentation covers the main application points of privacy for churches. It is designed to be used in tandem with the PCV privacy training information material found at www.safechurchpcv.org.au/privacy. Once you have watched this presentation, you may read this material for further details. The PCV privacy policy has been made available to all PCV congregations and organisations via both brochures in churches and via the internet at www.pcv.org.au and at www.safechurchpcv.org.au/privacy. Any inquiries or complaints relating to privacy are to be addressed to the Privacy Officer. The PCV Privacy Officer's contact details are found in Section 6 of the policy. Complaints may also be taken to the Office of the Australian Information Commissioner. The privacy policy guidelines are also available at the Safe Church website, and along with this training presentation aim to assist people who work or volunteer for the Church in understanding how the privacy policy applies in practice. At the Safe Church website on the privacy page, you will also find a link to the Australian Privacy Principles, which our own privacy policy and practices must adhere to, as our policy in Section 1 states that the Church will conform to the privacy legislation. Privacy policy and legislation relates to personally identifiable and sensitive information about individuals collected and held by the Church for the purposes of our mission and worship, fellowship and other activities. The definition of personally identifiable and sensitive information is found in Section 1 of our policy and also in our privacy policy guidelines. This includes not only details such as your name, address and date of birth, but also information that relates to other sensitive areas of life, as indicated by the list provided. When collecting this kind of information, the Church may only do so when it relates to our purposes as a Church. In other words, to undertake our mission and worship, fellowship and other activities. Collection means any time you record personally identifiable or sensitive information about individuals in a paper or electronic medium. Writing this kind of information down or recording it electronically, say via email or in a database, is collecting the information. The Church holds information about individuals when after collection the information is kept in a documented form by the Church for use. People sharing prayer points and needs with fellow believers in a church setting, for example, is not holding the information, but collecting information on forms or making notes of pastoral concerns which are personally identifiable or sensitive, and then keeping these notes is holding the information. The main aspects of privacy for the church are the purpose of collection of the information about individuals, consent by individuals for the church to collect, hold, and use their information, the use and disclosure of the information, securing the information to prevent it being passed on illegitimately, updating, destruction, and archiving of the information. Please read the accompanying privacy training material on the website for more detail. Complaints regarding privacy in the church are to be addressed to the Privacy Officer of the PCV. See Section 6 of our policy for the Privacy Officer's contact information. Privacy best practice includes always gaining individuals' consent to collect their personally identifiable or sensitive information, only using it for the purpose it was collected for. This is known as the primary purpose. Storing it securely and preventing unauthorised access to it. Never disclosing personally identifiable or sensitive information about individuals for a secondary purpose without seeking their consent. Regularly updating the information as required and destroying or securely archiving it when it is no longer required. Documenting privacy protocols so that any person in the church handling personally identifiable or sensitive information about individuals knows how to do so in a privacy policy compliant manner. The main applications of the privacy policy for our church are as follows. Always attach the privacy collection notice on any forms where individuals are asked to complete personally identifiable or sensitive information details. This makes it clear that by completing the form, the individual has consented to the collection, hold, and use of their information by the church. Church camp forms are a good example of this. A recommended privacy collection notice can be found at the privacy page of the Safe Church website and in the Privacy Policy Guidelines. In terms of confidential pastoral duties, refer first to the Privacy Policy Guidelines. It is important to understand that collecting such information for the purpose of pastoral duties is entirely lawful when undertaken according to the purposes of the Church. If you take any notes about personally identifiable or sensitive information and keep these, remember that privacy best practice is essential. See the privacy training information on the website again for further detail. If you have a joint email address and find you use it when undertaking confidential pastoral duties involving personally identifiable or sensitive information about individuals, then this is in breach of the PCV privacy policy and the Australian privacy principles, as the information is not secured appropriately. Always use an email address only you have access to for dealing with such information in the course of confidential pastoral duties. Church administration is the main church activity where privacy applies. Following privacy best practice is essential to make sure that people's personally identifiable or sensitive information is protected and used appropriately. Church officers are recommended to establish a set of privacy best practice protocols that are followed by church workers and volunteers and are regularly reviewed and updated, for example, on a yearly basis. If updating the church directory or collecting the contact details of individuals by physical form, there is a form to use on the Safe Church privacy page. This form is also accessible from the Forms page on the website. If collecting the contact details via email, refer to the form for wording and always make sure to put the privacy collection notice in the email. Also remember to ask people to email back to you their consent to be in the directory and check their information for the directory is correct and then correct it as necessary. When the directory is published, put in the publication notice from the privacy guidelines. See Notice to Use when information is collected in the guidelines on the website. At the privacy page on the website, there is also a recommended statement to include in the published directory relating to the legitimate use of the directory information. There are photo consent forms available for use by churches at the forms page of the Safe Church website should these be required. There are a number of forms available for use by churches at the forms page, and these forms may be altered as required, but all the relevant forms requiring the privacy collection notice have it affixed for you. If a form you require is not available on the Safe Church website and you would like assistance, please contact the privacy officer for help. Any completed forms you collect from individuals must be stored securely and the information not disclosed illegitimately to persons who are not entitled to have access to it. Again, see the privacy training information for further details as required. We also need to store personally identifiable and sensitive information about individuals securely. Any information in electronic or digital form must be stored on a computer or device that is password protected. If using cloud services, ensure you are using a leading best practice provider, and again, always use a password to control access to only those users who are authorised to access the information. Any personally identifiable or sensitive information about individuals that is paper-based must also be stored securely, such as in a lockable file or physical location such as an office. Obviously, church directories are published in order to disseminate the details of those people who have given consent to be listed. Individuals are responsible for their own directory, and it is not the responsibility of the church to secure the distributed directories, but rather only to ensure it has been made clear that the details are not to be used for another secondary purpose, such as direct selling, and the original forms used to collect the information are held securely by the church. Firstly, use the information only for the primary purpose or purposes it was collected for. Do not disclose the information outside the church or to those people who are not authorised to have access to it. The best thing to do if someone external to the PCV asks you for the contact details of a person within the church is to always ask for the inquirer's contact number or email and then pass on the request. The person can then make their own decision about giving their personally identifiable information to the inquirer. Always take care to adopt a reasonable and careful approach to any request or need to disclose any personally identifiable or sensitive information about individuals externally. In other words, to a person or organisation outside the Presbyterian Church of Victoria. The Australian privacy principles clearly state that law enforcement bodies such as police are exempt from restrictions on external disclosures. Further, personally identifiable and sensitive information may also be disclosed in the case of what is referred to as a permitted health situation, where the health and/or safety of a person or persons is threatened unless the external disclosure is made. Again, remember that the test here is to ask what is the reasonable thing to do in the circumstances. If you have any concerns or queries related to this, please refer to the Australian Privacy Principles or contact the PCV Privacy Officer. If personally identifiable or sensitive information about an individual is accessed or disclosed illegitimately, hacked or lost, this is known as a data breach. If this occurs, always contact the Privacy Officer for assistance as soon as you are aware of the breach. Following privacy best practice is another way we show our Christ-centred care for one another in our church. Remember that any queries regarding the PCV privacy policy or privacy matters in the church may be directed to the Privacy Officer by contacting 0499 090 449 or via email safechurch@pcvic.org.au. Thank you for viewing this online training presentation. May the Lord continue to bless you as you serve Him in our church.